يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم والذين أوتوا العلم درجات يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم والذين أوتوا العلم درجات والله بما تعملون خبير.
الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Before we start our lesson, continue our lesson inshallah ta'ala, there's a few introductory points that I need to make about this lesson. First one is that this lesson is a continuation of a lesson that we were doing, or two lessons to be honest that we've done. One in North London, Masjid al-Sunnah, so some of the brothers from here can see, they came to that lesson, Masjid al-Sunnah, and another one was in Dar es-Salaam. In those two lessons, for the past few years we're going through the Kitab Matn Abi Shuja, or known as Matn Al-Ghaayat wa-Taqrib, by Abu Shuja' al-Asfahani, rahimahullah ta'ala. This book is in fiqh al-Shafi'i. Now in both lessons in Dar es-Salaam, in West London and in North London as well, we finished the ibadat. So we're continuing from the ibadat to the mu'amalat. So therefore a few new faces that I can see. There's not many new faces that I can see, but a few new faces that I can see. The reason you've missed a lot of the book, which is not really a big problem, but that's the reason why we are trying to keep the numbers low, especially for this lesson, because of the fact that most people haven't started from the beginning. So therefore you're not going to understand. You might understand, but it will be a bit harder for you to follow for this lesson, because we already started the book. But do I say that a person who hasn't studied this or hasn't done with us Kitab Matn Abi Shuja with us before, do I say he can't attend? No, you can attend, because there's still benefits. Number one, you're going to benefit from the issues that you're going to go through, and number two also is something that I was discussing with one of the brothers about whether I should teach this part or not. And it is good for people to know these issues, because it shows how Islam is perfect. Because Islam discusses all of these issues, so at least you're going to benefit that. And if not going to benefit the masail, the issues with regards to buying and selling and nikah and marriage and all that stuff, if you're not going to benefit just from that, then at least you benefit from the fact that you see the mahasin of Islam, how good or how perfect Islam is, right? So there is still a benefit from attending these classes, even if you didn't attend before. As for Sunday, then this Kitab al-Tawheed, which we're going to start inshallah ta'ala 5 o'clock every Sunday from the beginning. We've done Kitab al-Tawheed before within the brothers of Masjid al-Sunnah, but we're going to do it again inshallah ta'ala because of the benefit of that book, and it was a book that's needed by everyone, so we're going to do it again. That's the first thing. So the second thing, of course, is that this masjidimamannawawi hasn't been officially opened as a masjid yet. It's just still been renovating. Alhamdulillah, they've been going on for more than 10 years. There was a madrasa for children and learning Quran and things like that. And now, after a year of renovation, they're going to open very soon, as you guys can see. But not everything is done yet. So even the microphone, we're going to fix that inshallah. A lot of things we're going to fix. A lot of things, don't worry. But the masjid is not open yet. So the salat is not open. It's not here for salat. The 5 daily prayers are not prayed here. It's not open yet. It will be announced inshallah soon, but it's not yet open. As for our lessons, then inshallah ta'ala, when we get here, we'll pray the salah that's there. So today, for example, we prayed Maghrib, and after the lesson, we're going to pray Isha at 8:30 inshallah. Right? So that will be how the lesson is going to go inshallah ta'ala. Recordings are available for what we've done previously in this book. But other than that, then we're going to be carrying on the Kitab al-Mu'amalat from Matn Al-Ghaayat wa-Taqrib. And it might go over some people's heads, especially the people who haven't been attending before. But inshallah ta'ala, you'll still be able to benefit. And wabillahi at-tawfiq. Is there anything else I've left out? Sure. طيب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Kitab Al-Buyoo. Kitab Al-Buyoo. So we're going to go straight into it. So the brothers who already attended, you guys know how we do this lesson. Masail and points, and then questions. If there's anything that I haven't explained properly, then you can stop me. And as for questions that are outside of the lesson, then maybe after that inshallah. As for sisters, then they can write their questions down and they can pass it through بإذن الله تعالى. So he says كتاب البيوع وغيرها من المعاملات. Then he says البيوع ثلاثة أشياء: بيع عين مشاهدة فجائز، وبيع شيء موصوف في الذمة فجائز، وبيع عين غائبة لم تشاهد فلا يجوز. Al-Buyoo. What does Al-Buyoo mean? So this is the second part of the 4 parts of fiqh. Everyone, remember at the beginning of the fiqh classes, we said that fiqh is split up into how many parts? The teachings of fiqh. How many parts are they split up into? Where's Abdullah? Abdurrahman. Abdullah. 2. Are you sure? Daniel. 4. What are they?
Worship.
Ibadat. Number 1. So the first part of fiqh is ibadat. Worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In it, what do we take? Before that? Tahara. Salah. Hajj. Okay. Before that? 5 pillars of Islam, basically. Yeah, zakah, siyam, and hajj. Right? So we've taken that throughout that time. The second part of fiqh is, out of the 4, is al-mu'amalat. Al-mu'amalat, what it covers is, and write it down, mu'amalat, this part of the fiqh that we're going to be studying, it covers the transactions between human beings. And the reason why the scholars of fiqh, they started fiqh off with ibadat, with acts of worship, is because it is what is the connection between you and Allah. And that should be put first. The connection between a slave and his creator. So because of that, you learn about al-tahara, you learn about al-salah, al-zakah, al-siyam, and hajj. That's the ibadah, the worship that you do between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why the ulama of fiqh, they put it first. As for al-mu'amalat, then it's to do with the transactions between the human beings. In it, there is buying and selling. In it, there is, I'm not going to mention all of them, but there are things like buying and selling. There are business investments, for example. We're going to learn about that. Al-ijara, renting. We're going to learn about a lot of transactions that there are that we will learn about, inshallah ta'ala. And through it, subhanallah, you would see the mahasin of al-Islam. How Islam, it covers everything. Allah says in the Quran, مَا فَرَّطَنَا فِي الْكِتَابِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. We haven't left out anything in this book, right? So, because of that, so that's the second part of fiqh. The third part was an-nikah, marriage laws pertaining to the family. So in it, you would deal with an-nikah, the conditions of nikah. We deal with divorce. We deal with an-nafaqat, who has to spend what on who, things like that. All of these are dealt with in al-fara'id as well, inheritance. That's dealt with in the third part of al-fiqh. As for the fourth part of fiqh, then it is dealing with al-jinayat, criminal laws. So in it we learn about the laws, what are the punishments for certain actions, certain crimes. We learn about al-bayyinat wal-shahadat, witnesses and testimony and proofs in a court. What's a proof in a criminal court? Islam deals with all of that, right? So here we're going to be discussing al-buyoo', the transactions between the human beings. And it's important for everyone to know. Why is it important for everyone to know? Every day a person is dealing with buyoo', with mu'amalat, not buyoo', but mu'amalat. You're dealing with other human beings. Whether it be a masjid. What are you allowed to do in a masjid? What is the hukum of a masjid? And what's the difference between a place that's a masjid and a place that's not a masjid? For example, al-waqf, for example, a masajid, they're all waqf. And that means endowment. That shows that you're not allowed to buy and sell a masjid. You're not allowed to buy and sell a masjid. Therefore, you're not allowed to buy and sell inside the masjid. What's the ruling on plugging your iPhone in and charging it whilst in a masjid? Are you allowed or not? These kind of things, you deal with it in every single day, in everyday life. Therefore, learning these things are the most important thing. Is one of the most important things that a person can do. Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, used to prevent anyone from entering to the marketplace before learning how to buy and sell. Because he might sell something haram that he's not allowed to sell in the first place. He might sell something that's halal, but he might sell it in a wrong way. He might sell something that he doesn't even know. He might sell something and in it there's Ribaa, and he doesn't even know about Ribaa. You understand? So here we find out about Ribaa and all of these things. I know there's a lot of faces that out there that, they might be lost, but we did write on the poster continuation from Mu'amalat, right? I did write that, right? Did I? It was right. Alhamdulillah. So Please, guys, sorry about that. If you guys are going to be, but alhamdulillah, at least you're going to benefit. And inshallah ta'ala, you won't lose out on your intention. Inshallah ta'ala. من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. Whoever takes a path to knowledge, Allah will make a path easy for him to Jannah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward everyone. طيب, بيوع. Al-Bay'. What is buyoo'? Buyoo' is the plural of the word bay'. Is the plural of the word bay'. Write it down. Plural of the word bay'. What is bay'? Bay' is, in the Arabic language, it is إعطاء شيء مقابلة شيء. It is to give something in a transaction for something else. That's in the Arabic language. A bay' is to give anything. It doesn't necessarily mean, in the Arabic language, it doesn't necessarily mean to give money for money. It doesn't necessarily mean to give anything for anything else, right? Money for money necessarily. It could be anything for anything. That's in the Arabic language. But when we talk about it in fiqh, then we're talking about مقابلة مال بمال قابلين للتصرف بإيجاب وقبول على الوجه المأذون فيه. We're gonna have to decipher this definition. طيب. So he says in the Sharia, or what would be better to say is في الاصطلاح, according to the fuqaha, according to the scholars of fiqh, they say that al-bay' is a transaction of wealth for wealth. A transaction for wealth for wealth. Write that down. A transaction of wealth for wealth. طيب, we have to look at this definition so far. Wealth for wealth. What does that bring out? What does that exclude? يعني I say a transaction for wealth. Anything that's not wealth. يعني, for example, actions or anything like that. Anything that's not wealth, right? So that what comes out of that is something that Sharia hasn't considered wealth. For example, najasat, impurities. The Sharia doesn't consider alcohol to be wealth. The Sharia doesn't consider illegal drugs or haram drugs to be wealth. It doesn't consider it to be wealth. يعني it's not a sahih, it's not a transaction which is sahih, which is correct. Okay, alcohol is not considered to be wealth in the Sharia. A pig is not considered to be wealth in the Sharia. A dog is not considered to be wealth in the Sharia. طيب. So anything that is considered to be wealth according to the Sharia. قابلين للتصرف, that they accept التصرف. You're able to exchange it. Something you're able to exchange. For example, what is something that you're not allowed to what is something you are able to exchange? Money, anything, phone. Your phone, you're allowed to, your book. You're allowed to exchange your book. What are you not allowed to exchange? What are you not allowed to sell? No, but that's wealth. Something that's wealth, they're not allowed to sell. Something that you don't own. You said masjid? MashaAllah. Mosque, a masjid. You're not allowed to sell a masjid. It's the property of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's waqf. So you're not allowed to sell it. Right? Or, what did the Quran say? Something you don't own. Anything you don't own is not something that you can actually, or for example, a business investment that the profits have come. For example, I put £10,000, someone put £10,000, we made £40,000. We agreed 50%, right? 50-50. That wealth is in the bank altogether. It's not mine yet. I don't have it and my friend doesn't have it. It's in the bank. We're going to split it tomorrow. In that case, it's not قابل للتصرف. Therefore, it's not considered to be wealth. Therefore, what ruling do we get from that? What ruling do we get from that? If I say you're not able to use transaction with it. يعني you don't own it. You don't have it yet. You don't own it. Therefore, you don't have to pay zakah. You're not allowed to use it for your own personal gains. You say it's my money. No, it's not your money yet. It has to be in your hand for it's in your money. That's what we mean by التصرف. Okay? قابلين للتصرف بإيجاب وقبول على الوجه المأذون فيه. بإيجاب وقبول. With a إيجاب and قبول. Write it down in Arabic. It's important to write down Arabic. الإيجاب والقبول. والإيجاب والقبول, what it means is a offering of the item and acceptance of the item. For example, الإيجاب والقبول, what it means is an example of, by the way guys, there's no network down here. So if your parents are calling, you're not going to get no network. Most people. So if your parents are calling you, watch out. There's a brother trying to come in. I don't know if he's lost. But there's a brother trying to come in. If you want to get him in. He's probably wearing a thobe. He doesn't know where the masjid is. طيب. But yeah. طيب. What was I saying? إيجاب القبول. الإيجاب والقبول is to accept, to give, or to the word that you use to offer and to accept. To offer and to accept. يعني for example, when you go to the shop, what do? You get the item, you put it on the counter, and then you take the money. You give the money. Or if you give the money, right? Putting the item there, that's the person's item, right? By him offering it and putting it outside in the shop, that's called ijab. He's offered it. By you taking it and giving the money, that's called qabul, acceptance. Okay? So, a buying and selling, it must have these two, which is ijab and qabul. There must be an element of giving. Someone must give. And someone must accept. Someone must accept it. And we're going to come to it about the ijab al-qabul soon, inshallah. And then it says, عَلَى الْوَجْهِ الْمَأْذُونِ فِيهِ, in a way that is permitted. In a way that is permissible. As opposed to in a way that is not permissible. For example, الربا. يعني if someone does riba, he gives you money. Or he gives you, we're gonna come to it, 2 bags of dates. Or 2 kilograms of dates. And I give him 1 kilogram of dates. That's wealth, right? It's my wealth and it's his wealth, right? We have ijab al-qabul, right? But it's riba, therefore it's not allowed. So it's done in a wrong way. Therefore it's not considered to be bay'. Is that clear? Do you guys understand that? Huh?
So what was the Arabic for it's in a way that's permissible?
المأذون فيه. المأذون فيه. طيب? Is that clear? So that is the definition of al-bay', buying and selling in the Sharia. And we're going to come to the conditions and all of that stuff, inshallah ta'ala. Allah says in the Quran, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. Allah has made bay' halal and He made riba haram. That shows that the asl, the foundational ruling with regards to buying and selling, يعني transactions, all transactions, the foundational ruling, the original ruling is that it is halal, allowed, as opposed to ibadah. If someone does an act of worship, what's the original ruling of the act of worship? Haram until proven to be allowed, right? Otherwise it's going to be considered to be what? A bid'ah, an innovation, right? For example, someone says, I am going to go to the masjid and pray 5 rak'ah of dhuhr. You say to him, ask him why. He says, because 1 extra rak'ah is good. It's an extra rak'ah, what's the problem with that? Right? And then you say to him, and he says to me, give me the evidence that I'm not allowed to do it. What do we say to him? You have to bring the evidence that you are allowed to do it. Do you understand that? So any act of worship, you have to bring the evidence before you do it. Any act of worship. طيب, as for mu'amalat, buying and selling, someone makes a transaction. You say to him, it's haram to make that transaction. You say, and you ask him, what's the evidence that you're allowed to do that transaction? What do you say? What does he have to say? You have to provide the evidence that it's haram. You said it's haram, right? So it says, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made al-bay' halal and He made riba haram. طيب. أركان البيع, the pillars of buying and selling. Write down. The pillars of the transaction. There are 3 pillars of transactions. There are 3 pillars of any transaction. طيب. Number 1. The first pillar of any transaction is al-ba'i', the buyer. The buyer. Number 2 is the seller. Number 2 is the seller. And number 3 is I've made it 4 by accident, like in Lebas. Number 3 is the product being sold, or being bought and sold. And number 4 is as-sigha, the sigha, which is the method in which the exchange happens. The method by which the exchange happens. يعني what we said earlier, al-ijab al-qabul. As-sigha is the method through which the exchange happens. And we said it earlier, it is al-ijab والقبول. طيب. Let's talk about all of these things. Number one, the buyer and seller. There are conditions for a person to be a buyer and seller. Not everyone's allowed to buy and sell something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't allow everyone to buy and sell something. Why? Because there's certain people in this world, they don't know how to use wealth. They don't know how to use money. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives conditions. So they are, the buyer and the seller, they must be, number one, aqil. Must be, have an intellect. صح? Have an intellect. Number two is, he must be Rashid. Rashid. What does Rashid mean? Rashid, it means that a person, he has the ability to buy and sell in a correct way. We're going to explain that. I have to explain that one. The opposite of a Rashid is someone who's called Safi. Someone who's called Safi. Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا تُؤْتُوا السُّفَهَاءَ أَمْوَالَكُمُ الَّتِي جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ قِيَامًا. Right? Don't give the Sufaha your wealth, because they don't know how to use the wealth. Who's the Safi? A Safi in the Sharia, according to the Shafi'i madhab, Shafi'i, they say a person who uses his wealth for haram. So he goes out, you give him money, he gets money, and he just buys haram things. Alcohol, for example, billah. He buys things that are haram. That person, he's not able to buy and sell. He's not able to buy and sell. So he's considered to be a Safi. Therefore, you have to be a Rashid, you do not use your wealth for haram. You do not use your wealth for haram. Right? Another, just from Bab al-Fa'id as a benefit, the Hanabila, they say that the Rashid, the Safi, is the one who is not able to look after his wealth. He gets, as you can say, he gets bumped everywhere he goes. And he goes to the shop, he doesn't know how much to buy things for. He just, he gets bumped wherever he is. You understand? He gets ripped off, as they say. That person, the Hanabila, they say, they make it a bit wider. But the Shafi'i, they say the person who uses haram. He uses his wealth for haram. That person, he is not allowed to buy and sell. And obviously, this only happens by the ruling of the judge. A judge comes and he says this person, he's stamped, he's not allowed to buy and sell in the market. So if he goes to the marketplace and he makes a transaction, that person is not allowed to buy and sell to him.
What does he do if he can't buy it?
So his wali has to buy it for him. His wali. So that's why there's wilayatul mal. There's wilaya in wealth. We're going to learn about wilaya in nikah, right? Everyone knows about that one. But there's also wilaya in wealth. And there's also wilaya in al-hadana, in custody of children. We're going to go through all of that in al-mu'amalat, right? Inshallah ta'ala. So this is the Safi. Al-aqil is al-rashid. طيب, al-baligh, he has to be, the next condition is, so you guys understand what Rashid is, right? Who doesn't understand what Rashid is? He has to be a Rashid. The opposite of a Rashid is Safi.
Okay.
So what's a Rashid? Someone who is able to use wealth in a correct way. Huh?
Oh, Rashid is the one who uses it for haram.
No, Safi is the one who uses it for haram. That's the one who's not allowed to buy and sell. The one who is allowed to buy and sell is Al-Rashid. Al-Rashid. The one who's able to use his wealth in a correct way. And what do we mean by that? He doesn't use it in a haram way. Okay? And obviously that's done by the judge, the hukm al-hakim, the ruling of the ruler. طيب. نعم. Then he has to be baligh, at the age of puberty. It's the next one, right? Age of puberty. Al-baligh. What do we mean by that? The person who's before the age of puberty, his buying and selling generally is not acceptable. His buying and selling is not acceptable. I know everyone's going to ask, what about sending my kids to the shop and buying something? That's allowed. Why? Because that is something that is minor. Something that's minor. But for example, a child before the age of puberty, he doesn't know what he's doing. You give him a house to sell. He sells a house. What's he going to do? He's either not going to sell it. He's going to say, I want £5 million for a £200 house, because he thinks he's going to get money. Or he's going to sell it for £10, something like that. You don't know what he's going to do. صح? So the child below the age of puberty is not allowed to buy and sell, except for the small things that are considered to be small. Now, Mustafa.
You know those kids who sell like sweets in school? Like
The kids who sell sweets in school. That's a good one. Buying and selling those minor things are allowed. Buying and selling those minor things are okay. طيب, is that clear? طيب. That is some conditions. اختيار. نعم. The next condition for the buyers and sellers is that they must be people who are buying and selling out of their own choice. Yani you can't force someone to buy and sell something. You can't force him. Say, give me that money, I'm going to give you this. Right? Except for in one condition, which we're going to learn, in one situation, which is the muflis, the one who is bankrupt. The person who is bankrupt, he is forced to sell his items because he owes people money. Therefore, the judge comes and forces him to sell his item, and that's an exception. That's an exception. That's an exception. Other than that, then it is not allowed to force someone to sell something. Is that clear? طيب. نعم. طيب. Those are the the people who are buying and selling, المتبايعان. وأما الصيغة, as for the نعم. Before the صيغة, we're going to the actual item. The actual item. So we said the conditions are what? Buy and seller, which is one? The product being sold. And the method of it being sold. طيب, the product, there's conditions for the product. Number one. So the author, he mentions it here. He says it after actually. But we're going to go for it inshallah ta'ala soon. Huh? Now?
Is there 4 or 3? The Aqil, Rashid, Baligh, and
عاقل, رشيد, بالغ, المختار. He has a choice. Be given a choice.
just the 4.
Just those. نعم, those 4. But now we're going to go into some things that are. نعم. We're going to go into some other things, which are connected, similar to it. طيب. The actual item that's being sold. Number one, it must be mamluk. It must be owned. You can't sell what you don't own. If a person doesn't own something, you can't sell it. What comes under that? People that go on eBay and they don't own it, and they say, I'm gonna sell you this thing, this item. Or he goes to someone, he sees something over there. He sees this phone. Okay? You see this phone. Talha says to Yunus, I'm gonna sell you this phone. Yunus says, okay, how much? It's £100. Yunus gives him £100. He comes to me and he says, I'll buy this phone off you £50. Huh? And he buys it off me and he gives it to you. What's he done there? He just bought something that he doesn't own. Okay? That is an item that he doesn't own. So therefore you have to own. The Prophet ﷺ said in the Hadeeth, وَلَا تَبِعْ مَا لَا تَمْلِكْ. Do not sell what you do not own. They said someone sold the Eiffel Tower. He didn't own the Eiffel Tower. Someone sold it, right? Or someone says, I'm going to sell you this masjid. He doesn't own the masjid. You're not to sell what you don't own. A question is going to come here is what? What's your question?
What second point you're selling? So you're selling on behalf of someone.
That's selling on that's being representative. That's niyab. That's allowed. Al-wakil. Al-wakil is allowed for a person to be, you're selling on someone's behalf. But another question that a lot of people they ask is drop shipping, which is that they say that they go on the internet and in drop shipping, they go on the internet and they buy something, or they put something up on the internet, and then when someone buys it, they go and buy it from the factory or whatever, and they sell it. This is different. We're going to come to it. This is something called salam. We're going to come into that inshallah ta'ala, which is that a person, what we mean by what you don't own are specific items. Specific items. For example, I say this phone right here, not an iPhone that is this color, that is this make, and this and that. If you don't own that, that's different. That's called a salam. Okay? Someone says, so for example, he puts an advert up. He says, I'm going to sell a camera, or an iPad, or a book. What book is it? It's Fath al-Bari, the print of Dar al-Risala, or Tab'at al-Risala, the tahqiq of Al-Firyabi, for example. طيب. That one you can get it anyway. You can get it from the factory. You can get it from it. But he doesn't mean a specific one. He doesn't mean the one that's in this bookshelf right here. This one right here. Or is it this specific iPhone? He doesn't mean that. What he means is what? Generally, I'm going to give you an iPhone with this and this and this and that. It has all of these specifications. That's called salam. That's different. We're going to go into that. As for what is prohibited is what? To sell a specific item that you don't own. A specific item. Do you understand the difference between a specific item and a general item? For example, someone has a car outside. It's an Audi. This and that. This make, this and that. That specific one. It's not mine. I don't own it. I can't sell it. Like I say to someone, I'm going to get you an Audi that is this and that is that, that is that. I don't own it, but I'm going to get it for you. Give me the money and I'll go get it for you. That's something else. Do you understand? So we don't intend here, what we don't intend is what? Selling a brand or a category of item. What we intend is this specific iPhone, this one right here. Okay? Do you guys understand that? Is that clear? That's what we mean by al-mamluk. Number 2 is, the second condition is, so the author, he says, وَيَصِحُّ بَيْعُ كُلِّ طَاهِرٍ مُنْتَفَعٍ بِهِ مَمْلُوكٍ وَلَا يَصِحُّ بَيْعُ عَيْنٍ نَجِسَةٍ. So, the second one, it is that it has to be tahir, meaning pure, as opposed to impure items. For example, najasa, you're not allowed to sell najasa, because najasa is not considered to be wealth. Najasa is not considered to be wealth. For example, a pig or a dog. You know, they sell dogs in the pet shops, right? You're not allowed to buy dogs because they're impure. Impure items, you're not allowed to buy. According to the Shafi'i and the Hanabila. There, some now they give a and the Hanafiya, for example, they say it's allowed. Generally, they say it's allowed actually. But some they say if it's a dog that is guide dog or guard dog that's used for need, then it's allowed. They say that. Some scholars they say that, but what the majority, what the Shafi'i, especially the Shafi'i and the Hanabila, what they say is that it's only allowed for you to own it, but you're not allowed to buy and sell it. Yani, if someone gives it to you, as for buying and sell it, they're not allowed. طيب? That's the second condition for the item. Number 3, the third condition for the item is that it must be muntafa'un biha. You have to be able to benefit from it. Therefore, that excludes what? Things that you're not allowed to benefit from. You can't benefit from. There's no benefit in it. For example, someone sells you a leaf. You know those leaves in the ground in autumn? I'll sell you this leaf. Yeah, you're allowed to buy it. That is what the scholars they mention here. They mention, and what the example generally, if you read the books of fiqh that they give, is, for example, hasharat, insects, flies and stuff like that. They're not sell flies. But today, we're living in a time where you can even benefit from those things. So, if there is a benefit, then it's allowed to be sold. As for if there is no benefit that is considered to be a benefit in the Sharia, then it is not allowed to be sold. If there is no benefit that is considered to be a benefit in the Sharia, it's not allowed to be sold. For example, a lion. What benefit is there from a lion? You can't benefit from a lion like that. A god, I don't know if this ever happened. You can't benefit from a lion or a tiger. Things like that. Therefore, that's what the scholars they mentioned in the past. They mentioned tiger and lions. You're not allowed to buy and sell it because you can't benefit from it. Or hasharat, they mentioned the insects. But obviously today they buy insects because they do scientific experiments and that kind of stuff. So that doesn't come under it. Like in the examples, there can be many, and you can ask about examples, but the general principle is that if you cannot benefit from it, if there is no benefit in the item, I can't benefit from it. I might not benefit from this phone, I don't have to use it, for example, but someone else can. There is a benefit in the phone. Like what do we mean here? We mean there is no benefit at all in the item. Like for example, a leaf that no one's going to benefit from. طيب? No.
I was going to say, would the lion and the tiger be considered wealth in the first place?
No, it's not. It won't be considered to be wealth in the first place as well. صح. But even those things like a leaf is not considered to be wealth as well. You understand? So غير منتفع به. طيب, and then he says ويصح بيع كل طاهر منتفع به مملوك ولا يصح بيع عين نجسة وما لا منفعة فيه. So something there's no benefit in. The next condition is that the item must be known. It must be known. You have to know what you're buying and selling. طيب. As opposed to someone who says, I sell to you whatever's in my pocket. Do you know what's in my pocket? You don't know what's in my pocket, right? So it could be worth £100 and it could be worth £500. It could be worth 0, nothing, and you just give me money, right? And the asl for that is the Prophet ﷺ نهى عن بيع المنابذة. المنابذة is the bay that the Arabs they used to do. Some of them they used to do, and we find it in fun fairs today, which is that you get a rock, and you throw the rock on something, and he says whatever it lands on, then I sell it to you for £100. So it might land on something that's worth £500, and it might land on something that's worth nothing, but you have to give £100. So you don't know what you're buying and selling. That's the asl. The hadith is the asl. But generally, the principle is that if you don't know what you're buying and selling, then you're not allowed to buy or sell it. Okay? Why is that? but I should have mentioned to you guys a principle in the Sharia which is important to understand, which is the Sharia, it is built upon al-ulfa bayn al-ikhwa, for the brothers of the Islamic Brotherhood to be strong, right? And anything that goes against or splits the Muslims in terms of their brotherhood, then the Sharia prohibits it. It says not allowed, right? For example, the Prophet ﷺ, when he said, وَلَا تَبِعْ مَا لَا تَمْلِكْ, don't sell what you don't own. يعني you don't own the item, and you come to me and you want to buy the item off me, or you want to buy the item off me to sell it to someone else, and you're ready to taking the money, and I said no, I'm not selling it to you. What can you do then? You have to go return the money. He says, why are you taking my money in the first place? You didn't own it. So it creates hardship, right? And we're even going to come to a bab called Bab Shufa, which it is basically when someone sells a land, the neighboring land, he has a choice to buy that land by force for the same price. It's called Shufa. We're going to come to it. That shows all these evidences. It shows the principle in the Sharia that the Sharia, it wants to bring the Islamic Brotherhood together, and anything that destroys or causes munaza'ah, causes argumentation or arguments or confrontation between the Muslims, then the Sharia prohibits it. For example, you go in a taxi, okay, and you go in the taxi and you say, I want to go to this place. You don't agree on a price. When you get there, what's going to happen? You're going to say £10. The taxi is going to say, no, I was 15, and you're going to start arguing. So therefore, why does the Sharia therefore say you have to know what you're buying and selling? Because there's no argument. Right now, if I told him for £15 and he agreed, then he has no argument, right? But if someone says, I'm going to sell it to you, what's in my pocket? I take it out of my pocket, it's this little thing. Huh? I says, what's that? It has a lot of cards in it. So it's a lot. So then, and you say for £10, I didn't know what's in my pocket. And you bought it off me. I'm thinking, I just got ripped off. Right? So it causes harm between the people. So the Sharia, the principle in the Sharia is that especially in Bab Al-Buyoo, we're going to see this in Buyoo, that they're very strict in these conditions, because all of these conditions, if they're not there, they cause confrontation or confliction between the people. Now,
sometimes people sell stuff, but you don't know what it is. But let's say you pay £50 for it. Let's say it's £50 worth of something.
£50 worth of what?
I don't know.
Yeah, and you don't know what it is. £50 worth.
It's worth £50.
No, it's not allowed. You have to know what it is. Okay? No.
You know the taxi example you just gave?
Yeah.
Like when you go to another country and you get a taxi,
Yeah.
you don't know what rate they're going to charge you.
Yeah.
So how does it work?
You have to ask. How much you're going to go? You have to ask.
Beforehand.
Before you get into the taxi. It's not allowed otherwise. As again, as you guys have seen, especially you guys go to the other countries, not here obviously, here they have the meters and whatever, Uber, they know what they're saying. Like in other countries, you just go inside the taxi and you say, and if you try it, you know what they're going to be like, that was £15, no, that was 20. No. Yani it's not allowed, صح? So what did I say so far? What conditions have I said?
Product being sold.
Yeah, product being sold, what did I say?
It must be owned.
Must be owned, pure, able to benefit from,
Must be known.
has to be known. That's number 4, huh? Number 5 is وهو القدرة على التسليم. You're able to give it. You're able to submit the item. You're able to give the person the item. And if, for example, a person says, listen, what happens today, right? You say to someone, I've got a phone, and someone stole it. If you get it back, if you get it back, you can have it. I sell it to you for £50. You go get it back. Whether you can get it back or not, do you know if you can get it back? We don't know. So you're not able to give it, right? And this is the example that they give the books of fiqh is Al-Abdul Abiq, is a slave that ran away. And you have a slave, he runs away, and he says, someone, I'll sell you to that slave. Can you give it to him? You can't give him the slave. Or you give him the phone. The phone's lost. Where is it? I don't know. But I'll sell it to you for this much money. Cheaper. Because it's lost. Right? If he doesn't find it, what's going to happen? He's going to be angry, right? If he does find it, what's going to happen? You're going to be angry. I shouldn't have sold it. Right? That shows the maqsad of the Sharia, the intention behind the Sharia is for it to be, for the Islamic Brotherhood to be strong. Naam. Is that clear? دون بعض نعم. أما الصيغة مسألة العين نعم. Then questions on that?
I have a question. So what about, for example, you see posters of like a missing dog and they offer a cash price. Are you allowed to, for example?
That's different. You're not buying and selling the dog or whatever you're selling, not the dog, but whatever the item. This is something called ju'ala. We're going to come to it as well. Like everything, Allah didn't leave anything out in the Sharia. ما فرطنا في الكتاب من شيء. Al-ju'ala, which is that if you do something, then I'm going to give you this. That's a job. You're getting employed basically. It's not employed by the hour, but it's employed according to the, as opposed to renting. And so there's ju'ala and there's ijara. Ijara is to rent something for a certain time. Ju'ala is to rent the benefit. So if you build this wall for me, or if you find that item for me, then I'm going to give you that money. It's called ju'ala, right? So that's allowed. It's a whole different aqd. Now,
is it permissible to buy everyday items like cornflakes or other everyday items, but some of them come with a special price? Like I'm sure you guys have seen,
Yeah.
Some of
it's on sale.
Like no, they'll say you the cornflakes, but then they'll write on the package, oh, it might have a special ticket to this place, or it's like a chance. So is it permissible to buy that because you don't know what you're buying? I mean, you do.
The asl is that you're not buying the that thing. You're buying the cornflakes, and that comes as a chance. Does it enter into gambling? Allahu a'lam. We have to look into that.
And also, am I allowed to sell my kidney as well, for example?
Selling your body parts is something that the scholars of the European Council of Fiqh, they've spoken about, or the Council of Fiqh, Majma' al-Fiqh, they've spoken about, and they put conditions on that. Selling, no, not selling. Sorry, donating, different. Selling, no, you're not allowed. No, you're not allowed. Na'am, Abdurrahman.
I'm myself talking to my brother saying I've left it at home, so I said give me the money now, I can send it to you. Oh, it's at home.
Good. We're going to come into that now, inshallah. وَبَيْعُ شَيْءٍ. So we said now, بيع ثلاث أشياء. So بيع is three things. بيع عين مشاهدة فجائز. Is there any chairs? Is there any chairs around? Where's the Ryan? Is there any chairs? Okay. بيع is three things, huh? بيع عين مشاهدة فجائز. No. This is now next. We're going to the next thing, inshallah. There's three things that you can buy. So either you can buy something عين مشاهدة فجائز. This is the beginning of the Buyoo. If you guys look in the books, you're selling something that is seen, that you can see, and that is allowed, it's permissible. يعني, for you to sell or buy something that you can see right in front of you, like the brother said, is in the house, huh? Something different. It's either you can see it or it has been seen. You get up, Rahman. See it or it has been seen. So if your brother's seen it, then you can sell it, and he knows what it is. And in that time that he's seen it, it doesn't change. Yeah, and it hasn't been 5 years since he's seen it. It's different. But he's seen it recently, like 2 hours ago, or 1 hour ago, yesterday. It doesn't change in that time. طيب, فجائز, that's allowed. So therefore, from the conditions of buying and selling is that the product must be seen. It must be known. That comes under it now. Our sigha, we're going to come to that inshallah now. This is just basically going through the method what he says. And we'll come out after that, the sigha. وَبَيْعُ شَيْءٍ. We'll go to the sigha. Let's go straight to this. We're started. خلاص. وَبَيْعُ شَيْءٍ مَوْصُوفٍ فِي الذِّمَّةِ فَجَائِزٍ. The second type of buying and selling is buying and selling something that has been described on your neck, as they say, في الذِّمَّة. The dhimma is on your neck. You're going to be held to it. So you're selling something. I don't have it right now, but I'm going to give it to you later. That's in your dhimma. So he said بَيْعُ شَيْءٍ مَوْصُوفٍ فِي الذِّمَّةِ فَجَائِزٍ. That's also allowed. What does that mean? It means you're buying and selling something that you describe to the person. I say to you, I'm going to sell you this book. The book is called such and such book. The print of this so and so. That he knows what book you're talking about. He knows exactly what book you're talking about. Or you say, I'm going to sell you this car. Is this make, this year, this brand, this color, all of the petrol, diesel, manual, automatic, all of that stuff. You tell him, he understands. He hasn't seen it yet, but he knows the description of that thing. And this is called Bay'u Salam or Salaf. Bay'u Salam or Salaf. If you look into the book. So the second one, right? وَبَيْعُ شَيْءٍ مَوْصُوفٍ بِالذِّمَّةِ يعني السلف والسلم. We're going to go into that. It's a whole chapter that we're going to come into, inshallah. وَبَيْعُ عَيْنٍ غَائِبَةٍ لَمْ تُشَاهَدْ فَلَا يَجُوزُ. And then the third type of bay' is to sell something that is absent. لَمْ تُشَاهَدْ, it hasn't been seen before. For example, I say to you, I'm selling you my iPhone. Or I'm selling you my chair in my house. Do you guys know? Does anyone know how the chair looks like in my house? I don't know how it looks like. I have a specific chair. You don't know how it looks like. I say to you, it's a chair. I'm going to sell it to you. Why are you not allowed? Because you don't know what it is. It's jahala. Fi jahala, right? There's ignorance. You don't know how it is. And what does that cause? You come to you give him the money. You go to collect the chair and you see that it's a bad chair. It's not really a nice chair. What's going to happen? It's going to be, you're going to give my money back. I don't want to sell the chair. Give me this, that. You know, yeah, it is. Especially when it comes to land, for example. When it comes to land, someone buying and selling land. That's all of this. It comes into that jahl, that jahala. طيب. مبيع شيء موصوف بذمة نعم متيكن ذا منتفع مملوك ولا يصح بيع عين نجسة ولا ما لا منفعة فيه. نعم. طيب. The صيغة. When it comes to the صيغة, this is very simple, inshallah ta'ala. Which is, do you guys understand what صيغة is? The offering and the accepting. The offering and the accepting of the item. The Shafi'iyya, they say that an item, when I say to you, I have a book. Okay, let's say this is a book. Okay, I have a book and I want to sell it to you. The way I have to sell it is by saying, do you want to buy this book for me? Of me? بِعْتُكَ هَذَا الْكِتَابِ. I say to you, I've sold to you this book. You have to say قَبِلْتُ. Have to say it. قَبِلْتُ, I've accepted. Well, not in Arabic, of course, in any language. قَبِلْتُ, I've accepted. And you take it. This is called al-ijab, the offering, wal-qabul. Now, do you understand what ijab al-qabul is? The offering and the accepting. There's many different forms of it. Many different forms, but that was just the basic principle of what the understanding of what I'm talking about. You guys understand what I'm talking about, yeah? So there's many different forms now. The Shafi'iyya, the ulama of Shafi'iyya, they say that this has to be by word. Yeah, I have to say it. And by the way, the Shafi'is, they're very strict on this. They're too strict on this, to be honest. Too strict. They say you have to say it. And if you go to buy Snickers to the shop, say, I'll buy it off you. The shopkeeper says, okay, I've sold it to you. And you have to give him the money and then you go. You're not allowed, if there's no speech, there's not allowed. Okay? Yani, it's going to be very awkward, basically. Every time you go and buy and sell something, you have to say that. That's what the Shafi'iyya, they say. Al-Imam al-Nawawi, from the Shafi'iyya, Al-Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that bay'ul mu'atah is allowed. Meaning, buying and selling without any words is allowed. Which is to give the item and to give the sil'a, the thaman, the price, and to take your item. It's allowed without speaking. And that's the opinion of the majority of the scholars. And in fact, it's the qadim opinion of Imam Shafi'i. Write it down. It's the qadim opinion. It's the old opinion. You guys know al-qadim what it means. Al-qadim al-jadid min al-madhab. So, they say that is allowed. طيب. نعم. That is the sigha. So what have we gone through so far? The buyers, the items being sold and bought, يعني the exchange, the things being exchanged, whether it's money or whether it is an item. Okay? And we also spoke about the sigha, the method of buying and selling. That is the basics of al-bay'. These are things that every single person needs to understand before getting into this Kitab Al-Buyoo, before getting into this chapter of fiqh of buying and selling. You need to understand what we mean by sigha. You need to understand what we mean by the two buyers and sellers, the conditions of the buyers and sellers, because all of this is going to be an introduction. This fine information, this small bit of information is going to be very important in every single chapter that we're going to take from now on. Even nikah. In nikah, you have buying and selling basically. It is a type of bay'. Nikah is you're basically giving a mahar, the money, okay, and that is the money that's given as a mahar, and it's not complete bay'. You're not buying a person, but you're giving a mahar, and in exchange you have certain things that are becoming halal haram for you. There has to be ijab and qabul. So when it says ankahtuka, what did you say? Qabiltu, right? I've accepted, right? That's ijab wal qabul. in ijara, when you're going to rent, ijaba, qabul, all of these things, what is being sold has to be known. Even in, for example, in nikah, who's being married has to know. That's why they name the person. Say, I married this person, her name is this and that and that. You have to say it, right? طيب? So all of these introductory points that I've given, they are all important for you to understand before we go into it. Next chapter is Ribaa, but because today is the first lesson, some people, they probably are planning to say, okay, I can't come to this lesson anymore, it's a bit too hard, we're going to stop there, so we don't want to keep too many people here, because I know some people are not going to come back next week. But for those brothers who have been, and inshallah you guys can come back, it will be lovely for you guys to come back next week because you understand, you'll benefit something at least, but obviously because you wasn't attending the rest of the classes, then I understand why a lot of people won't come. But Sunday we do Kitab al-Tawheed. But if a person does want to come, then wallahi it is beneficial. You're going to learn how to buy and sell, you're going to ask questions and things like that. So inshallah ta'ala you will benefit. But we'll stop there bi'idhnillah ta'ala at Ribaa. Next lesson we're going to take Ribaa. But let's take one principle before that, so you can understand Ribaa next week. It will help you understand Ribaa next week, and inshallah it will help you understand a lot of things next lesson. And if there's questions from the other side, then someone can get it inshallah from the other side. Nah.
So where can you find the other videos for the previous lessons?
The other videos, there's a group. Some of the brothers, they got it all together, in different places. But you attended, remember, Dar es Salaam?
No, I didn't.
You didn't attend? Oh, it was Daniel. You guys look similar a little bit. Huh?
So do you know the videos that you're doing now on Safina to Najah?
Yeah.
Do you just do those?
Yes, Safina al-Najah, you'll benefit, yeah. If you go through Safina al-Najah, obviously you can't just do those, but no, to be honest, the thing is, what we're speaking about today is not really too much connected to what we spoke about before. It's just to get you into the mood of understanding fiqh, because fiqh is a san'a, it's a profession. Honestly, it's like maths. It's like math and science. You have to understand it. You have to go into it. So a person needs to actually build themselves. That's why they put the easy part of fiqh at the beginning. Now we're going into the hard part of fiqh, because the person who's going into he started with the easy part, his mind is prepared to accept it. As for the one who's he comes straight into the hard part of fiqh, then it's like the guy who goes to the gym, 100 kg first day. You understand? It's a bit hard. He might be able to, he might have been strong before, Allahu A'lam. So you are able to understand, inshallah. If you guys attend, you will be able to understand. You have to do a bit more work. You understand? But those people who started before, they went to the gym, 20 kg, 30, now they're on 100 now. Okay? And they say that the scholars, students of knowledge, they are tested with mu'amalat. A person who's just done ibadat, then he's a beginner. He's a beginner. And when you go into mu'amalat, this is when the real kind of knowledge starts. Principle before we go, write down. What we're going to go into the next chapter is Ribaa. This chapter is going to start to talk about why buying and selling becomes invalid. Why a transaction becomes invalid. Na'am. Why a transaction becomes invalid. That's what we're going to speak about. So I'm going to give it to you in one sentence, inshallah. Then we're going to go into the details next lesson. The reasons why a transaction is invalid are 3 reasons only. One of 3 reasons only. Number 1 is Ribaa. There's Ribaa in that transaction. For example, we're going to come to it, giving gold for gold. I'm giving you gold, and you give me some gold, but I give you 10 kg of gold, and you give me 20 kg of gold. That's the Ribaa. So Ribaa basically, that's the first reason why a transaction will be invalid. For example, Bilal radiallahu anhu came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I sold 10 sa' of these dates for 2 sa' of these better dates. They're both dates, but this date is good quality and this is bad quality. So I sold 1 sa' for 2 sa'. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he say? Awwah, aynu Ribaa. That's Ribaa. He said, no, don't do that. That's Ribaa. Aynu Ribaa. That's exactly what Ribaa is, right? Because Ribaa, it makes a transaction invalid. Number 2 is Al-Gharar. Al-Gharar. What is Al-Gharar? Al-Gharar is a type of cheating. Any type of cheating. Al-Gharar. Or ambiguity, cheating, ambiguity all comes under it. It's called Gharar. What comes under Gharar? For example, you don't know what you're selling, what you're buying and selling. You don't know the exact item. You knew the item, but you were cheated. For example, someone, we're going to learn about by the way, under riba, there's a whole lesson for riba. So that's why I'm giving you the topic, so you guys can write it down. Maybe do your own research, so when you come to the lesson, you can come prepared. So riba is a whole topic, we're going to talk about it. Then al-gharar is a whole topic. For example, we have the example of talaqi al-rukban. You go outside the city. For example, a group of people are coming into the city to buy and sell stuff. What do? You go out the city and you tell those people, give me all your items for 1 million, I'll sell it. I'll sell it for you. I'll sell it. So 1 million. He doesn't know if he comes into the city, he can sell it for 10 million. What happened there? He was cheated. Right? Al-gharar. For example, another example would be a person, he was sold something and it was broken. A car, and it was broken. He wasn't told about the fact that it was broken. That's why it's important to tell people what you're buying, selling exactly. So he goes and he buys the car. Next day he goes, the clutch is gone. Why? Because he didn't know it was broken. He didn't tell him that the clutch was broken. He didn't know that there was a pipe that was missing, or the water was leaking. He didn't know what happened. He didn't know. So what happened? He had gharar. I did know, by the way. He had gharar. Okay? So therefore he's allowed to return it. So therefore the transaction becomes invalid in that situation. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, البيعان بالخيار ما لم يتفرقا فإن صدقا وبينا بورك لهما في بيعهما وإن كذبا وكتما محقت بركة بيعهما. The person, the two buyers and sellers, they are at choice as long as they haven't gone apart. If I sold to you an item, as long as you haven't left the room, I can say I want it back. I can return it basically. I want it back. But they said if they're truthful in the item, they tell everything. This item is broken here, has a little scratch here. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put barakah in their bay'ah. وإن كذبا, if they lie, وكتما, and they hide it. No, it's fine, completely fine, it's working. You go home, the next day it's broken. محقت بركة بيعهما. There's no barakah in that bay'ah. And the third reason for an item, a transaction to be invalid is al-jahala, ignorance. You don't know, to not know. And gharar and ignorance, they can intertwine, they can overlap in certain situations. But generally, jahala, it means you don't know. For example, the munabadha. I go and I throw a rock. I say whatever the rock falls on, then you can have it for £100. طيب? This is jahala. You don't know what you're gonna get. Or I say to you, I'm gonna sell to you whatever's inside that room. Do you know what's inside that room? You don't know what's inside that room. It could be worth 100, could be worth 200. You know, there's that show that they buy at the garage. They go to the garage, storage in that. You go to I said this much. What's in there? You don't know what's in there. It's not allowed. Jahala. There's jahala in it. For example, you have what's in my pocket. I sell it to you for £100. Do you know what's in my pocket? You don't know what's in my pocket. Therefore, it is not allowed. That is the end of that. Inshallah ta'ala, next lesson we're going to start riba. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.